In what is a annoying but unsurprising situation, has completely exposed Stephanie White and has completely exposed a lot of the things that, you know, people that are the Stephanie White detractors.
Like I said, we played for 2 years. Everything's pretty much the same stuff. Defense, offense, we know. Yeah, I said earlier, we know everything. They're trying to run. So we just form a game plan around that, and yeah, we know they're a team that loves to get to the free throw line, and our goal is just to limit second chance opportunities. And
defense, offense, you guys might have heard it because it's really low, but defense, offense, it's all the same. We know everything they're about to do. We know everything. Like, they're about.
Clark to the right, behind the coach, coming out.
The reason why Stephanie White, I think, has been such a success with the Indiana Fever, because they're playing Connecticut Sun basketball. Stephanie White is good at dragging teams down to her level. And you might have said, oh, but like, what about the game? And I do think that 1,000,000% Alyssa Thomas is a front runner. I think Alyssa Thomas is a front runner. She literally set her career high and didn't even go in for the press conference because Stephanie White beat her. And the difference is the reason why the Fever won that game was nothing to do with their sets and their offense. It was everything to do with Ari McDonald just going head down straight to the basket. And Nate Tibbetts.
Alyssa Thomas sent shockwaves through the league with one chilling warning: leave Caitlin Clark alone or I release everything. What sounded like a private threat quickly became a public firestorm, igniting debates far beyond basketball. Fans, media, and even league insiders are treating this not as trash talk, but as a showdown over who truly controls the WNBA's future: the coaches, the stars, or the players willing to blow the whistle when the stakes get too high. The first thing that jumps off the page in this saga is the imbalance in attention, and the numbers show why this threat from Alyssa Thomas gained so much traction. Caitlin Clark's games have averaged nearly 40% higher national TV ratings than typical WNBA primetime matchups, with her debut pulling in over 1.5 million viewers on ESPN, a figure that rivals mid-tier NBA broadcasts. Indiana's attendance doubled the moment she joined the Fever, jumping from 6,000 per game to over 11,000, and resale ticket prices soared past $200 compared to the $65 baseline before her arrival. These aren't just numbers, they're the financial backbone of the league's surge. That's what makes Thomas's pointed warning to head coach Stephanie White resonate so loudly. If Clark is seen as being unfairly targeted, whether through coaching schemes, locker room politics, or even league handling, it risks unraveling the very momentum the WNBA is finally enjoying. Thomas's statement, paired with Clark's measurable impact, reframes this as more than a personal feud. It's a battle over the credibility of a league that can't afford to alienate the player driving its growth. The urgency of Alyssa Thomas's warning to Stephanie White lies in timing. Caitlin Clark isn't just Indiana's rookie phenom. She is the economic and cultural engine of the WNBA right now. Attendance at Fever games has nearly doubled since her debut, surging from around 6,000 fans per game to more than 11,000, with her return games drawing crowds over 16,000. On television, matchups featuring Clark consistently pull 40 to 50% higher viewership than the league average, with ESPN broadcasts topping 1.5 million viewers, a number that rivals NBA regular season games. League Pass subscriptions jumped by double digits during her first month, directly linked to Indiana's schedule. Those numbers underscore why this isn't just locker room gossip. It's about protecting the league's most valuable asset at the very moment when sponsors and networks are recalibrating what women's basketball is worth. When Thomas steps in and effectively tells White to back off Clark, it highlights the larger fear. If Clark feels targeted, whether by coaching decisions, officiating tolerance, or rival physicality, the WNBA risks sabotaging its fastest growth spurt in history. For fans, this isn't about teammate dynamics. It's about whether the league can protect the player responsible for their tickets, their streams, and their growing pride in women's basketball. To understand the gravity of Alyssa Thomas's threat, it helps to compare Clark's situation with how past stars were treated during their rise. When Diana Taurasi entered the league, she averaged just over 17 points as a rookie, but her growth came in a steadier ecosystem. Viewership gains were modest, and the WNBA wasn't betting its entire trajectory on one player. Breanna Stewart's rookie campaign delivered a Rookie of the Year award and consistent numbers, yet her early years weren't scrutinized through nightly viral clips or TikTok debates. Neither Taurasi nor Stewart had to shoulder the kind of pressure Clark faces, where every foul, every hard screen, and every coaching decision sparks a national debate. Contrast that with Caitlin Clark. At just 22, she's averaging nearly 19 points and 6 assists, with one of the highest usage rates in the league. Her games boost national TV ratings by nearly 50% compared to the baseline, something no rookie before her has ever managed. Even Candace Parker, one of the most marketable players of her generation, didn't draw these numbers until much later in her career. The difference now is scale. Clark isn't being eased in. She's being pushed front and center as the face of the WNBA, and every opponent, every coach, and every referee decision becomes magnified. That's why Alyssa Thomas's warning resonates so loudly. It isn't unprecedented for stars to be defended. Veterans like Sue Bird and Sylvia Fowles often called out excessive physicality, but never in a climate where one player is so directly tied to ticket sales, broadcast rights, and corporate sponsorships. Clark's treatment isn't just about fairness. It's about whether the WNBA can sustain a superstar without repeating mistakes that left earlier legends without the national platform they deserved. The business side of this storyline explains why Alyssa Thomas's threat towards Stephanie White hit like a thunderclap. Caitlin Clark isn't just a rookie guard. She's the economic driver behind nearly every metric the league tracks. Since her arrival, Indiana Fever attendance has nearly doubled from roughly 6,000 fans per game to over 11,000, and her return games have pushed those crowds above 16,000. On the broadcasting side, Fever matchups routinely pull 40 to 50% higher TV ratings than the league's primetime average, with ESPN windows topping 1.5 million viewers, figures that rival mid-tier NBA games. That surge has also pushed League Pass subscriptions up by double digits, directly tied to Clark's schedule. Sponsors know these numbers as well as the fans do. Nike, Gatorade, and State Farm have positioned Clark as the face of women's basketball in their marketing, and Fanatics confirmed her jersey became the top-selling rookie jersey across all sports. For city officials in Indianapolis, her impact has translated into measurable economic gains, with local restaurants, hotels, and transportation reporting spikes on game days. The Clark effect is bigger than basketball. It's civic and corporate revenue rolled into one. That's why Thomas's threat felt so different from the usual trash talk. It wasn't just about protecting Clark physically on the court, it was about safeguarding the business model the WNBA is now tethered to. Fans flooded X, Twitter, and TikTok with hashtags like #ProtectClark and #LeagueIntegrity, generating millions of impressions, while analysts debated whether the league was failing to shield its biggest star. The perception that Stephanie White, as a coach, was allowing Clark to be unfairly targeted poured fuel on the controversy. For the WNBA, this moment underscored the fragility of its rise. Growth is exploding, but one misstep in managing Clark's treatment could shake the trust of fans, sponsors, and networks in a heartbeat. The ripple effects of Alyssa Thomas's warning to Stephanie White could shape not just Indiana's season, but the trajectory of the entire WNBA. If Thomas's threat signals growing player frustration over how Clark is treated, the league may be forced into reforms, stricter officiating standards, harsher penalties for targeting, and clearer protections for its marquee stars. Networks like ESPN and CBS, which have already prioritized Fever games because of Clark's ability to drive 40 to 50% higher ratings, will be watching closely. If Clark feels unprotected or sidelined by conflict, those numbers, and the millions in future broadcast rights they represent, are suddenly at risk. For the Indiana Fever, the implications hit immediately. Clark logs the league's highest rookie usage rate, touching the ball on nearly every possession. If referees allow her to be physically neutralized, or if coaching decisions leave her vulnerable, Indiana's playoff hopes dip sharply. Without Clark on the floor, the Fever's net rating drops by nearly 10 points, a swing large enough to decide close games in a playoff race. White now faces a pressure cooker. Lean on Clark heavily and risk the perception she isn't being protected, or scale back and face the wrath of fans who've paid premium ticket prices, resale averages above $200, to see Clark dominate. The business layer raises even higher stakes. Sponsors like Nike and Gatorade, who've invested millions in Clark's brand, can't afford for her to be portrayed as a league victim. If controversies continue, brands could start lobbying the WNBA for accountability or, worse, redirecting focus towards stars like Angel Reese or Aya Wilson, whose narratives feel safer. Expansion talks in cities like Toronto and Philadelphia also hinge on Clark's ability to sustain momentum. Investors cite her as proof of demand. If she appears mishandled, those bids could lose steam. Ultimately, Thomas's threat may serve as both a warning and a prediction. If the league doesn't prove it can protect its superstar while balancing competitive integrity, it risks alienating not only Clark but the very ecosystem, fans, sponsors, networks, and expansion markets that her rise has brought into play. The future of the WNBA depends on whether it can manage its star era without cracking under the weight of its own spotlight. Alyssa Thomas's threat to Stephanie White won't just fade as locker room chatter. It will be remembered as a turning point in how the WNBA balances loyalty, leadership, and the protection of its biggest star. Caitlin Clark is not only breaking scoring records and doubling Indiana's attendance from 6,000 to over 11,000 fans per game, she's also reshaping how the business of women's basketball is measured. When someone like Thomas, a veteran who has carried Connecticut to deep playoff runs, steps into the spotlight and warns a head coach to leave Clark alone, it signals a deeper power struggle about who controls the narrative: the coaches, the league office, or the players themselves. The larger stakes extend well beyond Indiana. National TV broadcasts featuring Clark average 40 to 50% higher ratings, resale tickets climb into the $200 plus range, and League Pass subscriptions jump double digits whenever she plays. That kind of economic leverage explains why fans erupted after Thomas's comments, because they understood that Clark isn't just a rookie guard, she's the business model of the league's next era. If players believe she's being mishandled, or if rival veterans feel compelled to speak out against her treatment, the WNBA could find itself walking a tightrope between growth and chaos. This leaves fans with questions that cut to the heart of the league's future. Did Alyssa Thomas step over the line by threatening to expose secrets? Or was she simply protecting the integrity of a game, tilting too far on one rookie's shoulders? And perhaps the bigger question, can the WNBA continue its meteoric rise if its brightest star becomes the center of controversy? Or will this moment expose the cracks in a league still learning how to manage superstardom at scale?